Um, hey everyone. Um, can you guys hear me okay? I guess press type 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, great. So for today I thought what I would do is start out by just solving some problems from a Div 3 and trying to explain my thought process as I go. Um, and if anyone has any questions or problems that I should look at instead, or any questions, I don't know, just anything, please feel free to let me know in the chat. Um, so people can follow along. I'll post the links to the problems that I'm doing as I go. Um, cool. Let me just fix my chat box properties. Is it possible to go over a peek at the global round? Today's global round? Um, yeah, I think we could talk about that. Although I didn't, solve all the problems, but I can probably explain just a few of them. um, where can I find your dot files? That's a great question. You you can find some of them in someone else's repository on GitHub from which I took them. Um, I'll I'll plug the repo now. And for the most part though, I just kind of have like random stuff scattered around. I don't have it in any central location for you guys. Hmm. Cool. I guess let's get started and definitely let me know if the font size or anything like that is hard to read. Um, so hi, there isn't a link to access your. Whoa, there isn't? All right, let me try to fix that real quick then. I got here by Google. That's extremely resourceful. Um, streams. Ah, I see. So it was checked as finished. Um, so cool. Stream is running. And the link goes here. Okay, awesome. I think this should work now. Yeah, I guess thanks, Neil. It might be because I started a minute or two late. Cool. So I guess here we have two people. We want to distribute candies. We want A to be larger than B, and we want to make sure we give away all the candies. And we want to count the number of ways to distribute N candies between sisters. Okay, cool. I could have also just only read this sentence, so good to know. Um, so I guess what we want to do here is we want B to be the smaller number, so we can just count the number of ways to pick B. And once we pick B, A is uniquely determined. Um, so B could be so if B is 1, 1 is the smallest number that B could be, and then A would be n minus 1. So if n equals 1, that doesn't work because A would be 0. But generally, then we want B to be strictly less than n over 2. The most B could be would be n over 2. So, for example, if n is 7, then B could be up to 3, as they explained here. So I think since we just want to go from 1 to n over 2, the answer would be n over 2 unless n is even. Um, so for example, if n equals 8, then you would get 4 plus 4, but 4 isn't strictly smaller than the other 4, so we want to round down in this case. Let me see if I can get my terminal on this too. Cool. Are you doing easy problems or will you do div 1 problems too? I think today I'll probably mostly do easy problems. um, yeah, thanks to Tourpran. Yeah, so I'm gonna be just going through a div 3 and trying to solve those problems. Um, and if people have any particular requests, I can take a crack at whatever. But yeah, just let me know. But for now, I'm gonna at least go through some of this div 3 and uh, try to explain things as I go. And feel free to ask any other questions. All right, so let's try submitting. All right, all right, we got accepted. Let's go to problem B. Construct the string. So we have 3 positive integers. Can you give Blair a shout out? Yes, Blair is the high school that I went to. I graduated just over 10 years ago in 2010, and I highly recommend it if you're in the market for high schools, which probably not many people in the chat are, but if you happen to be in 7th grade and you're deciding where you want to go in 2 years, go to Blair. Tell your parents to move to Maryland. Uh, Neil, not doing a virtual. No, I'm not. I figured I would just keep it like, I don't know. At least for me, I figured if I'm gonna talk to people and explain the problems, I don't want to do a virtual, and also I might just stop doing the Div 3 and do something else. That's right. I live in New York now, but I grew up in Maryland, and I work in New York. Um, a non-throwaway lol says, "Do you do math?" I do math when I'm doing programming contests. Otherwise, I mostly don't. Though I do really like math. Cool. So you have to construct a string s. So if we want every single substring of length a to have exactly b distinct letters, that's making me think we want to try to make something that's periodic. I sent you a DM on Codeforces. If you could respond. Wow, very brave to have me read your DM in front of everyone. Wow, that does look very interesting. I may answer it later. Um, cool. So I guess looking at these examples, they've explained we want 3 unique letters in every. Yeah, so I think that um if we do B unique letters at the beginning, and then we switch to let me open this. So I think if we do B unique letters, so for this example, we could do like ABC, and then just repeat the last letter, and then repeat that pattern over and over, then every block of length 5 has the exact same set of letters. So I think that would satisfy the constraints. By the way, I'm pretty new to C++, so let me know if people have any tips about, if I'm just missing like an STL library or something like that. I always like to use constants instead of characters. That way I, you know, have a much lower chance of a typo. So first, I guess I'll just make a block. Um, so that'll be of length n. So we want b distinct characters. So I don't actually even know if that'll work. Let's see if that prints what we even expect it to. Yeah, I'm not sure of the C++ syntax. Cool, so that seems right. And then we want the block to become of length n total. So we'll just repeat the last character. And then what we want to do is we want to just repeat this block periodically into the answer string. So to do that, we can right. So this n up here should actually be an a. We want the block to be of length a, and then we want the answer to be of length n. So let's try that. Ask me, do you really have Codeforces colored T-shirts? So my actual T-shirt is blue, and when I started doing Codeforces and changed that to my profile picture last year, I was blue. So I was like, this is great. My profile picture matches my Codeforces handle color. And then ever since then, I've just edited the T-shirt in the photo to match my current color. So I'm really glad that it's red now. I think it looks a lot better than the orange, which was kind of unnatural. The purple also looked pretty good, but I'd rather be. I was closer to red than purple, so I guess it made more sense to go that way. Um, so let's see if this meets the constraints. This. It looks like the samples make sense, and I think the principles of the solution make sense. Um, so I'll try submitting. Cool. Um, does anyone, for this problem, you can also do ABC, ABC, ABC. So I guess here, are you saying, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So what Neil pointed out in the chat is that instead of doing this ABCCC thing that I did, you can just do ABC, ABC, etc. And the reason that works is that whenever you start your window of size 5, the first three letters in it will be like the three letters you want. And then perhaps in another order, like if it's these five. And then the next ones will just be duplicates of previous letters. That's actually super cool. Nice. Of course, then yeah. Cool. Let me see. Right, two teams composing. So here we want to make two teams where the first team has all people with different skills, and the second one should be all people with the same skills. And each student, I guess, only has one skill. Okay, so the skills are basically just the numbers. Each student has like a number. We have a list of numbers. Um, cool. And we want to find the maximum size X where you can compose a valid pair of teams. So it seems like what we want to do here is find the number of distinct elements in the array, and then we'll put one of each of them into team 1, and we want to find the most frequent element and put that into team 2. The last two problems of this div 3 are very nice. Awesome. Hopefully I can solve the ones before them as well. Robot pass and 3. Hard version. Yeah, I love how they say easy version and hard version in parentheses. Yeah, should I just skip to one of those after this one? Um, I guess let me know in the chat if anybody has an opinion on whether I should go through in order or if I should. I mean, I guess there's only D after C. Um, or like, what do you guys think so far? If anyone has opinions on like the level of the problems, if people want to see something easier or harder or anything else. Um, cool. So yeah, I guess there's probably a bit of an edge case also where like you might have it's probably covered in the samples, right? Because it's a div 3, maybe not. But like, okay, so like in this case, for the first test case, you can do 1, 2, 4, and 4, 4, 4. But if there were one fewer 4, you would still get 3 as the number of distinct elements, and 3 is the most common element's frequency. So you would have to like subtract 1 or something. Um, so let's do this. Oh, also, somebody told me I should use ext/c++.h. What is that? If someone could explain it in the chat, that would be great. Um, so far, I've found all the code I need in this bits header. Um, let's see. So I guess we want to count the number of distinct elements. So we can use a map. And then we want to find so that's the most frequent element, and then in distinct. Maybe I could have just called them team 1 and team 2. Yeah, I'll just call this most. And distinct equals size count. So then int answer equals, it'll be the minimum of most and distinct. And then, I mean, let's just try printing that, right? See what happens. So that this should get the wrong answer for, I guess this actually should probably pass the samples, and then it would be wrong for one of the cases. Wait. Oh, interesting. Actually, the sample does have 4 distinct values here. So this sample actually does cover this case. Okay, awesome. Cool. So then I think we would want to do, if, oh, I guess we would just want to do most minus 1. No. Yeah, okay. So if most equals distinct, I think that's when we would be using all the elements from the most bucket, and then we would want to subtract 1 from answer. How can I see this stream next time or again? Do you mean like today's stream or like my stream? Oh, and I guess I'll paste this link in the chat again. You can probably do C and D quickly enough that you shouldn't need to skip anything. Yes. All right. Wow, you're saying that I can do C quickly. But I think I've already done C. So do you see a bug? Am I getting played? Okay, nice. All right. Don't uphack me. You can view the current stream. Yeah. So if you want to see the current stream, you can see it in the video archive, as Neil said, and then if you want to see future streams, you can follow me, or you can, I guess, check my Codeforces profile or something. I'm also probably gonna upload this to YouTube. My YouTube is linked in my about page on Twitch, I believe. What languages do you know? I only speak English. What is CK Max? Great question. This is a line written again by Socket, the person whose dot files I referenced, and it's basically just this function that does a equals max of a comma b, and there's the same one for min. And I personally find this super useful because really, really frequently, you just want to make something the max of its current value and a new value. And that way you don't have to type it twice. Which in this case is fine because it would just be like most equals max most v. But if you're doing like some complicated like DP and you have like this, then it's pretty nice to just replace this with this so that you don't have to worry about, having to type this complicated left-hand side twice. What coding languages do I know? So for competitive programming, I mostly used Java for like basically forever until just about a couple months ago when I switched to C++. The reason for that being mostly two to three reasons. One was runtime. Every now and then I would get this like problem where I would write it in Java and um, I would get TLE unless I wrote it really carefully. Um, there actually was a contest that I did recently that was right after I started learning C++ where this kind of came up. I did this problem, and there was this geometry problem where I had to sort like a big list of points, and I got TLE in Java, and then instead of thinking really hard to try to get rid of the log factor or something, I just retyped everything in C++, like word for word, um, and got like easily accepted. Uh, so if you're starting out now doing competitive programming, definitely recommend C++. There's also a lot more resources because you can learn from other people's code. Um, what resources do you suggest to learn C++? There's this website, CPP reference or C++ or something. Basically, just reading the documentation I think is helpful, but then a lot of it I would like ask my friends or read other people's code or something. Um, at a high level, it's basically the same as other languages, but with the just like some syntax switched out and like some subtleties. All right. So I'll move on to D. So you're given a correct solution to the Sudoku puzzle. Okay. Wow, if you don't know what it is, you can read about it. That's great. Anti-Sudoku. So every row has to be invalid, every column has to be invalid, and every 3x3 block, which is explained in the link above, has to be invalid, according to regular Sudoku rules. Um, Off the bat, I don't love this problem because I feel like, I don't know, I guess knowing what Sudoku is helps a little bit with like understanding it. I mean, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but it seems a little annoying. Um, okay, for each test case, print the answer. The initial field with at most 9 changed elements. So the obtained field is anti-Sudoku. So they're saying you want to change 9 elements in this 9 by 9 grid. So what that's making me think is that we want to, but we also have to invalidate 9 rows, 9 columns, and 9 blocks. So it seems like we want to invalidate, we definitely need to change one element in every block, one element in every row, and one element in every column. Uh, so I think the best way to do that, and I think that changing one element in each of those is sufficient because if you just change each element to any value other than the current value, it'll invalidate the block. And here I think knowing what Sudoku is in advance helps you think about it because you kind of just intuitively know that if the other 8 values in a row or column or block are set, then there's only one value for the last one. So I think that's probably the way to do it. I'll have to learn how to read this input. It's a vector of strings. So as always, I like to use constants instead of magic numbers. Vector string grid 9. Oh, okay, Z. Yes. Um, and then I think this should work, but I'll just check that it works. What are you using to test your programs locally? Great question. So earlier I plugged this GitHub repo. Um, that is also the one that I've made some small modifications on my own, but for the most part I'm using, if you check this out, there's run test.py um, from user socket. So it's basically just running it against the samples and then checking like, is it the same as what their sample output was. So a lot of the time, actually, this will say that you failed the samples because you got a different correct answer. If it's a constructor problem like this, where you have like a bunch of possible answers that are all valid. Um, so here, what I want to do is I'm going to do, I'm going to start in the top right corner, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom row. But what I'm going to do is every time I go down, I mean, I basically just need some way to cover everything. So oh, okay. There's kind of a hmm. All right, maybe I'll just type out these. I guess if it's greater than 9, then I want to make it equal to 0. I guess I'll test that this works, still learning C++. So 1, 2 should be third. So this 7 was originally a 6. Okay, cool. So I just want to increment. Man, I wish there were a nicer way to do this that I could see. But basically what I want to do is something like this. I want to do like 0, 0, and then I want to do like something that's in the next row, and then in the next box over, and then also well, I mean, of course it's going to be in a different column if it's in the next box over. Um, so basically I would want to do the second row, and then you might want to increase your font size. Oh, okay, awesome. Let me do that right now. So the terminal and the statements for sure. Yeah, okay. Um, cool. So the statements are bigger. The terminal, I guess. Yeah, I guess I'll make that bigger. It's not so important to read the terminal, but um, someone says hello on it. That's very nice. Hello. Um, guess I can even just do that. Make them overlap a little. And then the code should be bigger. I don't know how to do that actually. I guess. I actually don't even know how to change the font without doing this. I guess I'll try 28. Cool. Is this more readable now? Uh, so I guess as before, we want to start at the top left corner. Um, and then we would want to increment that cell, and then we want to go over to the next box. So we'd want to do like j plus equals 3, I guess. Yeah. And then if j is greater than or equal to z, so if j goes past the end, I mean, I guess this 3 is a magic number, but whatever. um, then what we want to do is we want to go like left again to the beginning, but we want to start one later. So then we'd want to do this. Um, so let's try that out. Um, and now I'll just print all the rows of the grid again. And then I guess what I want to test this out on, just to visualize it, is a grid that starts with all zeros, because like I don't want to look at this. And I'll make this font bigger so people can see it. So yeah, so if we look at this, we can see that every row definitely has one. Every column has one, and every box has one. So I think this should be correct. Um, I'll size this back down. So again, the core idea of this problem is just that if you change an element and you only change exactly one element in one of the constrained groups, like the rows, columns, or blocks, then it's definitely going to be invalidating that block. All right, I got wrong answer. What? Let's see. I'm guessing something was wrong with this. Because I don't really know how like plus plus and things like that work with cars. But it seemed to work okay with these zeros. All right, let's try it with nines. Oh, right, okay. I have here that I should turn into 0, but it actually should turn into 1. I'm used to 0 indexing things. Um, nice. Did anyone in the chat already spot that? Okay, cool. Yeah, so always definitely important to check like whether things start with 0 or 1. I actually got a runtime error on F on today's global round because of something similar. Yeah, on F I thought that I decremented all the values to make them 0 indexed, but I didn't. So then it passed like most of the samples, or it passed most of the test cases, and then got a runtime error. So I had to, get a small penalty for that. All right, the only difference between the easy and hard versions is constraints. Uh, AI can be up to 26, and this stuff goes up to 2000. All right, and then E2. Yep. AI can go up to 200, and now N goes up to 2 times 10 to the. Cool. And if Spy Z Hunter is still here, now I'm doing one of the problems that you recommended. Hmm. Oh, at most 2 distinct elements. Okay, so that's why A can be equal to B. And X and Y are integers greater than or equal to 0. Okay, very cool. So I guess A equaling B is not really that interesting, right? Because you could just make Y equal to 0 or X equal to 0 as well. I guess they're just being clear. So you want to find the largest subsequence that is a 3 blocks palindrome. Recall that the subsequence, or the sequence, okay, that's just what a subsequence is. The important thing about subsequence is distinct from substring or subarray, where those are contiguous. There's some examples here. AI can be up to 200. Um, okay. So it seems like what we want to do here is kind of pick the middle block, maybe? Or maybe pick the outer blocks. I'm not really sure of how to solve this one just yet. Um, I should definitely get like a drawing tablet or something for a future stream because I'm used to writing things on paper, but that's not really helpful to the viewers. um, So I guess let's look at one of the examples that they had. So in this example, I mean, it looks like from the example, the answer is like 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, um, which is 7. But I guess what we want to do is figure out how could we have like figured that out programmatically. And it looks like we want a pretty quick runtime here. Um, it looks like if we do something that's the number of distinct values times the length, that should run in time. The reason for this is 200 times 2e5 is 4 times 10 to the 7th, um, which is less than 10 to the 8th, which is what I use as my rule of thumb. Um, and this 200 is a little suspicious, right? Because it has these integers. Um, so they could have said anything, right? But they said 200, so it seems relevant that it only goes up to 200. Like there must be some reason for it. I guess notably, we can't do 200 squared. Hmm. So one thing we can do is we need the first and the last x to be the same. So basically what this means is we're taking a subsequence, but what we can do is we can take huh, that doesn't really work. But what I was thinking is we can take like a prefix and a suffix and count the number of times that they both have some element, let's say a, and we want those to be equal, and then that would be x. You can just delete all the stuff that's not equal to a from the suffix, and then you get like your subsequence. All right, let's look at E2, maybe, or let's look at E1. Maybe it'll give us some inspiration. So in E1, the maximum value is up to 26, and they just give you a single integer, which is the length of A. So notably, for this, what we can do is we can find the most common element in any interval by just checking all the intervals. Um, but we want to do this faster. Oh, wait a second. All right, I'll try coding something that I think may be too slow. Um, but I think it's on the right track towards a correct solution. So I'm gonna start by just making all the values from 0 to less than 200. Um, and then I'm just gonna do a little pre-processing. Counts. So this will be of length n plus 1. And then the inside thing will be z. So this should just be giving you the counts. Um, Actually, I think I'll do this. This doesn't really matter for the contest because the maximum test should be like the same whether um, like they should have values that go up to 200. But um, just for this, I think for debugging it'll be easier with small numbers, just so I don't print a bunch of garbage. Um, I think I've done something ridiculous here. Oh no, there's multiple test cases. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, why is the length of this array changing? um, but it's because there are multiple test cases. Okay, that makes sense. So I'll just look at the first test case to make sure I wrote this right. Um, cool. Yeah, okay. So what this allows us to do is by subtracting two of these numbers, you can get the count of any element in any given range. So hmm, so we could iterate over all values of x, and we could find the maximum possible value of y for those values of x. Um, I guess more precisely, I don't actually want to iterate over x. I want to iterate over like all the prefix lengths here, which determine the kind of inner block length. Um, so we'll start by putting 0 things on the left. I guess that's not. I guess we can. Oh no, but I guess x. Okay, yeah, we'll start by putting 0 things on the left, and then we'll just put everything on the left. But we won't actually get to that case. So now we're going to try all the possible values. So here v is the value of, this is kind of annoying that they're using a, but yeah, I'm going to use v for the value on the left and on the right, which they're using as a up here, because they're reusing a as the array. So here x would be equal to prefix L v minus prefix 0v. And this is actually just 0. But I'm just writing it here so it's kind of clear what we're doing. I'll delete it. So here x is the number of this instance of v. So what we want to do is we want to find the same number of things on the right. Or, if that doesn't exist, then we have a problem. So to write this in a naive way, it would look something like this. So this would be the very end minus something that's r elements from the end. So that'd be a range of length r. If that's greater than or equal to x, then break. So what's cool about this is actually monotonically increasing, so we don't actually need to write it like this. We can optimize this into a binary search later. So this would be, now we have our values of L and R, which is the number of stuff on the left and on the right. Cool. And then y would be equal to so now to set y, it's going to be the count of the most frequent element in between L and n minus r, with some appropriate like reindexing. I think actually exactly this, yeah. So in this closed interval. So what we want to do here is find a good way to compute this. We can actually probably do it reasonably efficiently by just trying all the different values. There is probably a better way. I think this will TLE, but I'm just gonna make sure I have the right idea by running it on the samples, and then so also here if r is greater than n, then if r is greater than n, then this didn't make sense. We got to continue. Actually, if L and R overlap, we also need to continue. So I guess we should write it like that. So L is just L, right? We basically have this range at the bottom, L to n minus r. So we want that range to, if that range has 0 or fewer elements, then we would want to continue. So now I think we can do this. X plus y plus x is our answer because we have the x on both sides. All right, great. This is a great opportunity to learn how to debug C++. Um, so what I'm just gonna do is run this with some like more verbose like debug output. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get like Valgrind working or to get um, GDB really working. They work, but they run like super slowly or so. I think GDB, yeah, I think they both run so slowly on my computer that like I can't debug anything with them. Um, which kind of sucks. It is one thing that I really miss from Java having like I mean like this is all right, right? It's saying out of bounds index 9, which I guess is cool, right? That's like, looking at the tests, right? Like I guess it's probably 9 because we have these 8 elements. Um, yeah, I know. I wish I had GDB, or I wish I just had Java style error handling where it would just tell you the line and everything without having to use a tool. Um, maybe someday I'll figure it out. So what could I guess if r is 0, this would be n plus 1. So that's probably it. Did I write this wrong? Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. I think, yeah, nice. Well spotted, Neil. Um, so this doesn't make any sense, right? N minus. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess if r is 0, then we want this to be like that. So there might actually be something wrong over here too, right? Um, maybe I should have just made r the actual index, but yeah, I guess n minus r here being the starting thing. So, okay, so this is correctly taking exactly r elements, which is what we want. But then the index of the last element should be n minus 1 minus r, I think. Because if r is 0, then it would be n minus 1. I guess this is a better way to do this. Um, or better yet, actually, I personally would prefer to write it this way, right? It's easy for me to think about the length of a range rather than like the indices. All right, let's see if this works. This should print a bunch of stuff and then maybe the correct answer. All right, so this prints the correct answer. However, it's super slow. Um, this could be optimized to a binary search, but I think that this by itself is already a problem. Um, Scrolling up a bit, right? This would be like 200 times 200 times 2e5, which would be 8 times 10 to the ninth, which is like very slow. Um, so let's see, there's a cool way to get the count of the most frequent element in an arbitrary range, like efficiently, without having to check all the elements. Hmm. Well, this should pass for should this pass for E1? That would be like 26 times 26 times 2000. No, 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 never mind. This is gonna be too much. I guess I probably won't. All right, I guess I'll just submit this to E1 and then see. Um, all right, running on test 2. This feels like it's pretty tough for a Division 3, but maybe not. um, all right, I guess let's replace this with a binary search. Um, so I never write binary search by hand. I just have this handy template, which so what we'd want here is we'd want to return, I guess we just want to return this basically. And then we want this to be the first, we want this to be the first value for which this is true. And my binary search template does return the first value for which it's true in the closed interval LR. So we want to start, so R can be anything from 0 to n plus 1. If R is n, then I guess if R is n, it would actually be true as well. So I can probably just do this and then delete this. I always forget those semicolons. They're kind of tricky ones. All right. I guess I'll submit this again just for, all right, it was faster. And I'll submit it to E2. I'm like very certain this will TLE, but I guess I won't even submit it then. Um, Hmm. Oh, so I don't think I need to try every single value when I'm doing L. I think I can only try the very last. I'll just submit this get TLE. I think I can only try the very last value that lengthening the prefix from L minus 1 to L allows me to get. Because otherwise there's like no point in lengthening it to L. So I think I can just remove this loop entirely, this highlighted loop, and replace it with int v equals prefix L minus 1. And I guess let's start with L equals 1 then. Or sorry, not prefix. I've been using prefix for so long. All right, so this failed the samples, probably for some good reason. Um, I didn't even mean to run it, actually. It just reran automatically. um, but let's read the samples. Oh, I see. This is printing 0 and it should be printing 1. So I think I really am just missing this case where L equals 0. So I will just do this. Then I think this should work. Cool. So this passes the samples. Um, uh, let's just see if this makes sense. And then the runtime of this should finally be n times log n plus what I call z, which is 200. So it'll be basically this runtime, which is, more than fast enough. All right, let's submit it. It's running on test 17 before test 7, I'm pretty sure. Cool, that got accepted. All right, looks like I've been streaming for a bit over an hour. Um, should I try to tackle F, or do people have any other preference for? Oh my god, it's a grid problem. I hate those. You're given a map of directions. I have to parse R's and L's. It's like, I don't know, basically advent of code. Um, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I guess I'll read F. Um, I may or may not solve it right now, depending on what if anyone has an opinion on what they want to see. Um, if anybody has any questions or wants me to go over any random other things, like someone earlier asked me if I could talk about the global round, which I'm happy to do. Um, Tour Prawn, I don't know if they're still here, um, but I could try going over that briefly, or yeah, grid problems. Oh, cool. You have to place the maximum number of robots. Oh, so in every cell, the robot can only move in one direction, and you can never have the robots collide, and they make an infinite number of moves. Wow, okay. So we want. Oh, and then the cells are also all black and white. Um, cool, yeah, and it's less than a million. Wow. Oh, and the robots never leave the grid. So I guess that means that every robot will follow like some cycle, and for each robot, all right, that's definitely super cool. But I think I will not do it right now. This definitely seems like a good problem to try to do on stream sometime when I have a like drawing ability instead of just typing in Sublime ability. Neil says, I remember this was actually a pretty nice problem. All right, you've actually surprised me there because from my reading of it, it looks disgusting. So if there's a problem that appears disgusting and someone says it's actually pretty nice, there's probably some like 200 IQ transformation that you can make. Um, is this a good one to like to do now or um, I mean, I would probably do it by drawing on paper, but I don't want to exclude the viewers from the paper. JHK says Bible thump, or I guess like a Kirby emoji. Um, thank you. It's actually not important that it's a grid. There is no move before which two robots. Ugh, they could have included a picture. All right. So print two integers, the maximum number of robots. Oh, whoa, okay. This is two separate things, I guess. I didn't even notice that. So you have to place the maximum number of robots. So if you have something like this RL, um, it looks like the robots move instantaneously, right, based on this example. So I guess what you basically want to do is you have some kind of like graph that's divided into like cycles that might have some stuff that like inputs into the cycle. Um, right. I guess every node in the graph has out degree one. So right, that's why there's a well-defined path. Every everything is degree out degree one. Then okay, so if you divide the graph into components, then every component, I believe, would be like a single cycle, possibly with some stuff feeding into that cycle. Um, and then if you have, right, and that's important. When you say that's an important type of graph, do you mean like a graph without degree one? Or like a, well, I guess they're kind of the same, but I was gonna say, or a graph that's like cycles with stuff feeding in. Um, oh man, this graph without degree one actually reminds me of something else. But right, maybe I can draw a picture somehow. Does anyone have any recommended drawing apps on a MacBook? Or actually, I can use the Graph Explorer, Graph Editor. Um, it's often called a functional graph. What's the meaning of functional? Oh, okay. Okay. The, okay, cool. Yeah, so these are, this is kind of a funny definition. Um, this one is like more natural to me. Um, all right, so let's draw the graph for like, I guess, the second test case. It has 9 nodes. All right. So, um, I guess I'll just number the things from 0 to 9. That's probably fine. And then let's see. So the first thing goes to the second thing. I want this to be directed. The Can I just draw? That'd be awesome. Okay, that's probably better than knowing to type. Hmm. Can I know what topics are required to become expert at Codeforces? Um, Does expert mean like blue, or does it mean becoming like knowledgeable in everything, or like becoming an expert? Um, I don't know. That's a great question, actually. What topics are required? Do you want to link your current profile? And maybe I or someone else in the chat can give you some advice. But for the most part, I would say like the common advice that people give, which I agree with, is just keep practicing by doing contests and solving problems. And eventually you'll solve problems or you'll attempt to solve problems where you don't know the topics that you needed to know. Like, maybe I'll try to solve a problem and it's like some string problem and I need to know how to use a try. And like, I don't really know how to use a try. So then what I would do is after I like failed to solve the problem and I learned that it was because I didn't know about this thing, then I would go and learn about this thing. Um, and I think the reason that this like is a pretty reasonable way to go about things is because this should actually be going to 0. Oops. Um, I think it's pretty reasonable because like the really main thing that you want to learn is like problem solving, and learning different topics is only valuable as it. Can you please show the font of your? Okay. Sometimes I'm not able to understand the editorial. That's a great question. Occasionally, so do you find that it's for problems that are like at or slightly above your level that you're not able to understand the editorial? Or do you find that it's for like, I don't know, like if I went and read the editorial for like the last problem of a global round, like I might not understand it. Um, if it's way above your level, then it might be cool to like see what kinds of, oh, I guess 200 points above your level. Yeah, you should definitely be able to understand those because it's pretty common to solve problems that are like, plus or minus 2 or 300 from your current rating, especially in practice if you can take your time. Um, if you have trouble reading the editorial, I think that first of all, understanding editorials is kind of a skill that you gain over time. And second, sometimes the editorials aren't that well written. Usually they're quite good though. And usually there's more discussion in the comments. And if you have friends that you can ask, I think that's really helpful because like I personally learn a lot from like talking to my friends and like asking them questions. Um, and I guess the last bit of editorial related advice is like when you read an editorial, um, don't just like read the words and like move on. Like try to think through it. Usually the editorials are a little bit short on detail. So try to like fill in the details yourself. Use like pencil and paper, try to prove all the claims and make sure you like really understand it. Um, where can we find editorials after the contest? Um, yeah, I personally find that the comment section is kind of interesting sometimes, but the editorials are up to like a more common standard of quality. Like, I guess let's try reading. Maybe this will help. Let's try reading one of the editorials for one of these problems that we've just done. Um, all right, let's read anti-Sudoku. So as a quick refresher, if you weren't here earlier when we did anti-Sudoku, or if you, great. Okay, this is actually a pretty like ingenious solution compared to mine. Yeah, this is and this is a perfect example of an editorial that has like, you know, a very insightful solution, but it's not that obvious why it works, especially um if you find this to be a hard problem, you probably won't read the editorial and immediately understand it. Right? They just kind of say it is easy to see this. Um, but yeah, I would say like if we were reading this editorial, to try to understand it, you would try to break down the different parts of it. So it's saying it'll have 2 copies of one in every row. So the reason for that is that the initial definition is that there's a 1 and a 2 in every row. So if you replace all the 2's with 1's, then you'll have the original 1 in each row, and then like the 2 that turned into a 1 in each row. And same for the columns and blocks. But it's definitely like I guess my advice, which, may or may not apply to you, is that if you're reading an editorial like this, don't just be like, "Oh, if I replace all the ones with twos or all the twos with ones, um that'll be the answer," and then, look at the code and say like, "Oh, well they're replacing all the twos with ones. Makes sense." And then if I submitted that, I would get AC. Instead, try to think through the claims and how to see or prove, or maybe even how you would come up with them yourself. That's definitely the most valuable part of reading editorials, but it's also by far the most difficult, I think. Um, but yeah, that's what I recommend. And I think when solving problems during a contest, like you should do them however you think helps you perform the best or learn the best. But I think when trying to understand problems later, like from an editorial, I think it's really good to try to think about them more like math problems than coding problems, and try to understand like how to prove the answer. It's not necessary to prove your answer during a contest, of course. You can just submit it and hope you get points. Um, but I think when you're reading the editorial, proving it is like pretty valuable to make sure you understand the nooks and crannies of the problem, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I guess it's my little tangent about editorials. And um, to the question asked also of how to find the editorial, like it's just listed here next to the problem. They have announcement and they have tutorial, which is, I guess the word for editorial. Oh wow, and it looks like I can delete these links. Is that because I'm red? Um, I don't know, but I won't. Okay, I guess I'll proceed with my slow task of drawing this graph. So 2 goes to L, and I guess we want to, I guess I'll try to make this a little bigger. Um, and then the next thing points down, so we have 3 going to, I guess, 6. Then, okay. Then the next thing points left, so we have 4 going to 3. The next one points down, so we have 5 going to 8. Um, then 6 points up, back to 3. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that helped. Um, definitely nice to hear. And then 7 points left to 6. And then finally 8 points left to 7. So I guess I'll arrange these like the original grid, which I don't know if that's strictly necessary, but um, it might be helpful. This tool is super useful. I've drawn graphs by hand so many times, and it gets super annoying. Well, for this graph, it didn't really help that much because I had to manually specify the graph. But it's awesome when you're doing like a graph or tree problem on Codeforces. You can just copy paste the whole input block into this, and it'll draw it for you. Okay, cool. And then, oops, I'll go back to force, and then I'll highlight the black cells. Oh no, they're running away. It's this force mode. Um, Okay, cool. So anyway, so looking at this problem, so you can put two things into this cycle. If you had three things in this component, they would definitely collide at some point when they got stuck in this cycle. And then in this component, okay, this actually is a pretty nice problem compared to my original interpretation of it, which was it's an annoying grid problem. um, in this component, you can have at most two things because they'll all get stuck in here going back and forth. And you want them to go into this cycle in such a way that if they go into this cycle and don't collide at first, then they'll never collide later, which is nice. Did I misread this? Down, down, left, down, up. Well, this is saying the answer is 4. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. It's 4 because you have 4. You have 2 in each component. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, very cool. So you have 2 in each component, and then, but here they're saying the answer is only 3 for the number in the highlighted cells. I guess if you tried to fill both of these highlighted cells, what you would end up doing is in the first time step, they would move to 3 and 7. The next time step, they would both move to 6. So when you have your cycle there, what you would want to do is, um, hmm. Okay, so I think the nicest way to organize this is actually to kind of move this around. Then so the idea is you kind of have your main nodes, which are these the ones that are part of the cycle, and then you have your extra nodes hanging off. And then you can consider these chains going into the cycle. So for example, there's this chain here consisting of 3 and 4, and there's this chain here consisting of 6, 7, 8, 9, 5. Or sorry, 6, 7, 8, 5. Um, and you can only have at most one thing in each. That's not even true, actually. Sorry, you can have multiple things in each chain. I guess you want to parameterize each node in terms of what its kind of position in the cycle ends up being once it reaches the cycle, like parity wise. So you would do something like take its distance into the cycle and then take what node it starts from. You could just okay, this is pretty nice. You can just look at its time until it reaches like a single canonical node that you label as like the start of the cycle. Um, this will be pretty interesting, especially as Neil mentioned, is like kind of a special type of graph, and I haven't really done much with these types of graphs. So let's see if I'm able to implement things reasonably. Okay, so that's so interesting. Actually, every single problem on this contest had multi-tests. I feel like usually you see multi-tests for the early problems and not for the later problems, but there's also been kind of a trend in Codeforces to I feel like there's been a trend to have more and more multi-tests over time, which I think is also kind of cool because, as I understand it, multi-tests basically reduce the queue, and they also um, they also make it like so you can have stronger pretests, which means less hacking. Uh, GX Fireball said, "Please stream more often. I really enjoy your stream." That's awesome to hear. This is my first time streaming competitive programming related stuff, and I'm really excited about it. So I'm really glad you like it. Um, and yeah, if anybody wants to be notified about my stream, you can either drop a follow on Twitch or you can. Um, I think I'll be posting all or most of my streams to the Codeforces sidebar, so it'll show up there. Um, Here, I guess. Um, or I think it's visible on my profile on Codeforces as well. All right, so let's figure out how to read this input and translate it to the graph, which I think is kind of the hardest part. Or not the hardest part, but it's kind of up there. Um, I'm actually going to do this as a separate function just because there are like some variables and stuff in the graph. Um, that I don't really that I would probably want to like I probably want to reuse n later to be what nm is here, like the total number of nodes in the graph. Um, so I'll just do that in a separate function. Let's see. All right, then vi color and times I can actually do this. Actually, so for this, I'd rather just do it like, I think it's a little bit less efficient because you don't pre-allocate the array, but it just seems like it's, I mean, here I'm pretty sure it's right because I just thought about it, but in general, I think this is a less error-prone way to do it. Um, so this would be S. Oh, and I can do this. Black. And instead of calling it color, I'm going to name it black so it's more clear that true, like what true actually represents. I'll just use a for each loop here. Um, oh, whoops. Black. All right, and then let's read the, this is the more complicated one, I guess. Um, so let's just map each character to its offset. So offset L equals -1, R equals +1, U equals -m, because we're going up a row. So, oh, I guess I should have said how I'm numbering these things. I'm basically just numbering them like this, just because dealing with 2 dimensions when it's not meaningful is just like one more thing to worry about. Um, so then I'll actually just write this almost the exact same way. Vi. Hopefully this works, but I'll actually just try printing them to be sure. So we're compiling F. Oh, very cool. Read input was not executed because I didn't actually call it. So I guess let's read the example that we drew the graph for. Um, yeah, cool. So this is an inverted version of the original array, and then this is definitely wrong. This is kind of an annoying way to read this input. I probably shouldn't have done it exactly this way, but I will, leave improving this as an exercise to the reader. Yeah, okay. All right, this is not the best way to do this, but maybe this will be right. I mixed up J, right? I'm using J here. I should change this to V, really. Um, oh, it's a little more clear that it's like a value. Um, so, all right, cool note. If every node has out degree 1, I don't need to do an adjacency list. I can just have like an a like a next, like an adjacency array, I guess. Um, Actually, I'm pretty sure I can do this. It's like a nice, like, almost Python-esque C++ thing. This destructuring declaration, or structured binding, maybe I think it's called. Um, where if you have some struct or pair or whatever, you can do this. Um, okay, great. So what we want to do next is we want to find we want to find where each thing will end up going. And the length of the cycle. So I can divide this graph into completely separate components and then solve each component separately. Um, so I guess I'll first do that. Ooh, I guess this shouldn't be const. So this is one way to get all the components. And then what I want to do next is find, for every cycle, I would want to find the length of this cycle and how many and which elements are part of it. And then for that, I just want to find basically like one canonical element in the cycle, which is like all I would need really. Um, actually, do I even really need these components? I think I just need the special nodes, then I can treat everything else kind of differently. So this might be not useful. I guess this is a little bit janky, but I can just use this written by again uh, user socket. Um, yo. Yeah, so cool. So this should work now. I need to figure out my streaming setup. I think my compilations are slower because my streaming is using my CPU. All right. So okay, so this correctly identified all right, so bringing back our graph from before. So this identified nodes 0 and 1 as part of this strongly connected component, and then nodes 3 and 6 as part of this other one, which is exactly what we wanted. There's probably a much like simpler way to find like cycles, but if you have pre-written code, then always use it. It's just easier. So here I'd want to mark the first special node of a component that has more than one um wait, you used SCC question mark LOL. Yes. So I figured, I have this pre-written code that will like nicely find the cycles within such a graph. Um, I did have to go in and modify the SCC code where it takes an adjacency array instead of an array of arrays because this graph is so simple. Um, all right, so let's identify our special nodes. Um, and I think we can do that by just going through each node and seeing what component it's part of and if that component has already been seen. Um, so if this component has already been seen, then we can label this node as special, unless we never see it again, though. It's actually a little annoying. Um, all right, so let's see if we can identify our single representative from each of these nice connected components. Man, this compilation is slow. All right, cool. So we've done so. All right, next, what we want to do is every node will eventually reach um, one of these special elements, and it might do it with some different time. Um, so I guess let's find all those times. Let's see. Int cur. Okay, so we want to find the destination for each node, and we want to find the distance to the special node for each node. Um, so first, if special cur, then destination cur equals cur. I'll just initialize these to -1. Distance cur equals 0. And then what we would do is I'll write this as not equal to -1, so it's more clear what we're saying. Um, and then otherwise, we're gonna do, we're gonna go one step to make sure we process the next thing. I can't wait to learn what that compiler is going to be. Huh. Should I set up a bot to do this? Um, I'm currently working on this division 3F. Um, yeah, do most people have a bot set up to do this? Let me know what bot I should use. Just like drop the name in the chat and I will try using it. Reference to local. Wait, what the? Streamlabs CloudBot. Scott uses Nightbot. All right. Hey Neil, can you tell me what this bug is? It seems to compile, but it's telling me that there's a reference to a local binding declared in the enclosing function. Reference to local in enclosing context. Is it this? That doesn't even make sense. Okay. I can't see the full code. Um, Great point. Uh, so there's basically, I think it might be a problem caused by this adge being a structured binding. Um, I will just try, I'll try this and see if it goes away. Okay, so apparently it was some weird structured binding issue, and it actually compiled fine on GCC, but my but Vim uses Clang for these diagnostics, and apparently Clang was like, don't do that. And there's some Stack Overflow thing. I'll paste it here so maybe I can reference it later. But it's saying like Clang is right. Um, but like, I don't know, man. It worked, so why not just compile it? Okay. Okay. So a lot of these things never reach a, oh, maybe I just didn't compile it. Okay, great. So it looks here like, again, if we refer to our graph and we only look at the second sample, it looks like these 6 things all do reach 6, which is the special node that they go to. And oh, that's nice that it's the second half, so it's like easy to look at here. Whoops. And then here you can see that we want to pick different distances. So we can pick something of distance 0, that would be 6. Actually, the distances need to be different modulo the size of the cycle, which we can also, I guess, store in another variable or something. Um, so what they're saying is we can, well, okay, yeah. So the reason that it's the 2 black nodes were 4 and 8. And so you can see that 4 has a distance of 2, and 8 also has a distance of 2. So you can't pick both of them. Cool. So it seems like this is definitely on the right path to, finishing up our solution. Um, I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit weird, but and then here we can just apply our modulo directly. Whoops. Oh my gosh, this stupid structured binding. Okay. Well, I mean, it still compiles, so. Actually, does it still compile? Success. Okay, cool. It does still compile, but a little slowly. Um, Maybe this is actually a problem. No, it's probably just that I made a mistake. I should add a little stream overlay for each person that follows. That would be fun. Maybe I actually should do it now, and then someone can help me test it by following me. This does not need to be that big. Oh wow, I see. There's some kind of zombie thing. Whoops. All right, this is probably not the time for me to do this. All right. Forget about that. Let's write this code. Okay, great. So we're basically done here. We just need to do the little bookkeeping at the very end. So for each special vertex, we want to figure out what's going on. So I think the simplest way to do that is to make a list of feeders that go into each special vertex, where this is going to tell you the distance. I guess I'll call them black and white. So what we want to do here is if yeah, this is a little bit like spaghetti. I'm curious to I mean, this is very systematic, but it's also like kind of long and systematic. I'm pretty curious to see if there's like a much like cleaner way, or maybe I'm just making my variable names too long, and so it feels like it's more. distance I. Actually, this is a little bit nicer to use a Holmes 36 says, "Hey Anand. Hello." Okay. So now we're like basically done. Um, we just want to do we just want to find the answer for black and total. Well, okay, I'll just find it this way. And yeah, this is definitely a better way to do it. Um, let's try printing black and total as well. Oh wow, okay. My compilations are like super behind. No wonder this got a wrong answer. Um, cool. Okay, yeah, this seems like it's right. Oh, my computer is like kind of lagging. Is the stream quality still all right? It's not like there's no like bitrate issues or anything, I hope. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, like just like everything on memory limit exceeded. Okay, that's very fun actually. I have basically never gotten memory limit exceeded in my entire life because I feel like generally if you have memory limit exceeded, you probably already will get time limit exceeded because trying to access like all the memory you're using is like a lot. um, all right. Yeah, I know, right? Who gets memory limit exceeded? This is ridiculous. Yes, okay. So this creates 2 million like empty sets, right? So that's like not good. Um Actually, is that not good? I bet it's because you have 2 million sets. All right, well, how am I supposed to do this? Yeah, I'm actually curious to get this memory usage down a little bit. Um, Maybe I'll try to understand how much memory I'm using by looking at their test 28 like size. Okay, so this is like a maximum size case, and this is also a maximum size case, and it uses a little bit. Okay, so we're basically right at the memory limit. Is 94 a lot? Two million empty sets. So that still means that I'm using a lot of other memory elsewhere, right? Like I guess all these vectors of ints are at, but no, but those should only be like a couple million, like I guess each vector of ints is like 4 bytes per int, so that would be like around 8 million megabytes per vector. So, maybe it's something like this that's causing me problems. Oh, where are my millions of nearly empty vectors? Oh, like these? No, wait, no, sorry, not these. Wait, actually, where are my millions of nearly empty vectors? Well, that's just these, and these replace the sets, so we're good. Like those wouldn't be in addition to the sets, I mean. All right, this got accepted, but I guess let's try to get this memory down. It would like this DFS would take up space. Oh, because it has to go like all the way through the stack. Um, I'm just gonna try doing this to see if. Oh, you know what? Like even just this, like I think copies everything. Um, so I have like two copies of the input, which shouldn't be like the end of the world, but it's definitely something. All right, I'm assuming the memory should be pretty deterministic, so I just submit again. I can get a sense for whether this is actually less. Yikes. All right, that basically made no difference, which I guess is to be expected because this would be like a million things. I mean, those are booleans, and this is like a million ints, which is like 4 million bytes. Oh, wait a second. In C++ 64-bit, am I does it basically use 2 times as many bytes to store like ints? Yeah, running out of memory is like annoying. Oh, but um what about like a full vector or something? Like if you have a vector of a million ints, is that in 64-bit, is that the same size as it would be in 32-bit? All right. Well, this is my new submission. I guess I should have tried my old submission. But yeah, that got it down quite a bit just doing that. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So the addresses are all 64 bits, but then if you have like an int or something, the int would be like okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very rare occasion. Like I feel like what you always want to do is like use more memory to get better runtime. Um, all right, cool. So this took like twice as long, and then it used like a bit less memory, so it passed. Um, so that was pretty cool. I learned something new about 32 and 64-bit C++. Um, all right. While we're talking about getting a better submission, let's read Neil's submission. Okay. I guess I'll read the latest one, assuming it's the best one. All right. So we're doing the input, whatever. Okay, we're doing this. No SCC. All right. Um, can I be your friend? Oh, on Codeforces. Sure. What's your username? Paste your profile link in the chat, and we'll then maybe all the viewers can become your friend. All right. I'm not gonna type or copy paste anything, so please paste links in the chat. Thank you. All right. Let's understand this cycle finding. So you go until you hit something you've seen already, uh, but you don't do that from every starting point, right? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I think that's pretty cool. So if I understand correctly, you can like from each starting point, you can go until you've seen something you've seen already, and if you're the first person, or if it's the first starting point that like discovers a new cycle, so to speak, that's when you discover the cycle. And then otherwise, you find a point on the already discovered cycle. Um, is that right? Or did you explicitly do some like casework for that? Okay, cool. Yeah, because like initially when you said it's basically the same as mine, but you did the cycle finding like the kind of just the obvious way to find cycles instead of like using some library code that someone else wrote. I was a little confused because I was looking for like two giant loops, one to do the cycle finding and one to like ooh, okay, yeah, peeling off leaves is pretty nice. This came up on that other div 3 problem, I think, that was just like last week. Um, the peeling off leaves solution there is pretty cool if you know that you just have a cycle with a bunch of chains falling off of it. Um, all right, somebody said link. I'll post the link. Um, and then I'll post a link to the other problem that I'm looking up here. Maybe it was this one. So there's this problem. Uh, number of simple paths. And a bit of a spoiler for that problem. It has a similar structure to this problem as a few people were saying in the chat, where your graph looks like a cycle with like some chains hanging off of it. And you can see here that I didn't solve this problem during the contest. That was a little funny. It's because I didn't realize that n was also the number of edges. I thought it was an arbitrary graph with an arbitrary number of edges. So I spent a really long time thinking like, all right, I'm pretty sure this is impossible, but maybe I'm just missing something. And then eventually I gave up and did something else. And then I think after the contest I read Neil's code because I was like, how did he do this problem that I thought was like straight up impossible? um, and then I was reading the code, and as soon as I started reading it, I was immediately confused. Okay, there's some templates here. Normies watch soccer matches. Yeah, so I read this and I was very confused why he was reading N but didn't read M, or like why the number of edges was gonna be N. And then I reread the problem statement and I saw that it was not like that. um but yeah, that problem has a pretty similar flavor. Uh I'll link that in the chat as well if anybody wants to go do it. Um, Anyway, cool. So I think I'm probably gonna wrap up for this stream. We we solved all the Div 3 problems that we set out to solve. Um, yeah, feel free to let me know either via, well, I guess via the chat while I'm streaming, or just via like Codeforces or something. If you have any suggestions for future streams, I'd be happy to hear that. Um, if anyone has any suggestions for something they'd like me to go over quickly now before I go, I'd be happy to do that. But if no one has anything, I'll wrap up the stream. Is there going to be a Codeforces round between now and December 19th? No idea. Is there even one on December 19th? All right, looks like there is. Um, yeah, I'll probably wait and then maybe do goodbye or hello. um, Definitely my favorite rounds are combined rounds. Although, streaming has been pretty fun so far, so if I want to continue streaming, I might be risk averse and maintain my barely red rating. Um, do you take pictures in different shirts whenever you get a new rating? No, it's the same picture, but I edited the shirt. So the original shirt was actually blue, and at the time that I made it my profile picture, I was blue. And then I realized when I became purple that, it didn't match anymore. So then I started editing the photos. So for me, it's just been like a fun little tradition. Um, I also do it on other websites, like on @coder. I have this kind of weird looking yellow shirt. um, on top coder, I just hit yellow after being blue. So that's, anyways, cool. Yeah, thanks so much everybody for tuning in. Definitely follow so I can, pump up that follower count, and see you guys next time.